Welcome back to the Legend Rouge Cycling Podcast presented by Zwift for a good sprint stage, an exciting one. Stage 13 of the Giro d'Italia from San Remo, where Milano San Remo finishes, obviously, to Cuneo inland. They're working their way north. 151 Ks, and unlike the pancake flat one yesterday, there's a 10K, 6.7% climb in this, Colle di Nava, and then, let me calculate, 100 Ks of flat pretty much to the finish, with the last 2 Ks of this being an annoying 2% drag uphill. Nothing to worry the sprinters about, but could be decisive for a breakaway. And the question was, with no Biniam here, do Alpecin take it upon themselves to pace? Is there a big fight to get in the breakaway with MVP, Court, Ballerini type guys? Will UAE pace the climb for Gaviria? Will Cav and Demar make it over? We had all these questions for the start of this stage, but it seems like people are tired, Benji. It turned out to be kind of the opposite of what I expected, the first third of this stage.
Yeah, not the largest breakaway going up the road, including Pascal Eenkhoorn in that breakaway together with Mirko Maestri from Aiolo, Nicolas Prudhomme, which is not related to the other Prudhomme from the Tour de France, but just a rider on Age-des-Erts. Julius van den Berg also in there for EF, and those are the 4 breakaway riders. Nothing too special there. That's a breakaway that on paper looks manageable from the peloton, I would dare to say, and their gap went up to an amount that is first 2 minutes, 3 minutes on the first climb, and then towards the middle of the stage, it went up to 7 minutes, but then towards the end of the stage, we clearly saw that the gap was, I don't know, going down, but we'll go into that breakaway versus peloton fight in a second, because in the peloton, someone wasn't feeling so well, because at a certain point, I was looking at my screen and thing on the left bottom of the screen that said Romain Bardet is abandoning, and I was so confused. I was like, we've seen nothing happen. We haven't seen him go to the back of the peloton and so forth, but apparently he was abandoning, and a few minutes later, we actually saw that he was in the car of DSM. We saw a statement by DSM on Twitter as well that he was out of the race, and it was so unexpected because he apparently had stomach problems or something.
Yeah, apparently he'd been sick all the night before and then just couldn't make it through this sprint stage, which wasn't really a day for GC at all. So a real shame because I think Bardet just signed an extension with DSM. He's revitalized his career there. Blockhouse has to be his best pure climbing performance in 4 years, 5 years to do 5.92 watts per kilo for nearly 40 minutes on a hot day after a hard stage. Really, really good stuff, which he hasn't been able to do in the last 2 years. So it's a real shame. He looked like not just a serious podium contender, but a guy that could actually win the race. He was there with Carapaz and Landa on that climb. And I guess now it's a shame also for Arensman, because I kept talking about how the many teams have 2 GC threats and how Arensman could get some leash to go up the road, sort of Carapaz style 2019 with Bardet behind. It's a lot harder when you're just the one man. And he didn't lose any time today, Arensman, thankfully. But before we get into the break versus sprint teams action, word on our show partners, Zwift, the cycling app that makes training fun. We have MVDP here, who we thought would be going for the stage today, perhaps. Cavendish, could they drop him on the climb? Zwift is the platform of choice for MVDP and Cav when training indoors, but there's something on Zwift for everybody to help you get fitter with real-world and fantasy locations to ride in. If you want to check out Zwift, you can go to Zwift.com for a free 7-day trial down below. But on that climb, this Colle di Nava, there was no real hard pacing. UAE didn't take it up with Formolo and Rui Costa to make sure that Demar and Cav got dropped. And the gap went out to what was it, Benji, 7 minutes? With just FDJ pretty much controlling. I guess that shows a lack of faith of UAE and Gaviria, I think.
I agree, but I also wouldn't be the DS that says Gaviria deserves to have the Domestiques of Almeida pace for him here. And I don't have the confidence in a Gaviria here as well. So I understand why they don't want to throw their energy into trying to create an opportunity for Gaviria, personally.
Yeah, I get that. And it's not just pace the last climb 10Ks from the finish. We're talking about a 3-hour commitment in the heat, pacing for 100 kilometers plus the climb. So you got to be really confident in your guy to do that, and it didn't happen. And so in the break, well, it was just a battle the whole time with the break gap kind of steadily but very slowly coming down, with Ancorn being, I think 100% the strongest in the break. Pascal Ancorn absolutely driving it. Vandenberg probably quite strong as well. Maestri a little bit smaller, and then Prudhomme was quite slight. And it really was Ancorn, I think, driving that, but the collaboration and cooperation was very, very good. But then it went like crosswind and then tailwind in the last 10Ks. So they just had to get to the tailwind in the last 10Ks. The problem for them was FDJ got some help. Although before then, Benji, there was a split. What was the cause of the split? Because MVDP got caught out and Port.
Honestly, I've got no clue. It felt like at the start of the peloton, at the front of the peloton, we had the team of Demar and Sotov just endlessly trying to crawl back the gap to the breakaway, which was staying rather stagnant at certain points. And I feel like the tempo made sure that the peloton was just on a line, and there must have been a snap somewhere that kind of made the group split in half, because like you said, there was a group behind. Arensman was rumored to be in that second group, but apparently was not. So positive for DSM after their not so positive abandonment earlier of Romain Bardet. And from that point onwards, it was that first peloton that was chasing the entire rest of the day for the breakaway, after the breakaway, to see if they could catch them. But I feel like when it comes to the peloton, there were moments in this race where they were pacing very hard, and then I think with about 15 to 20 kilometers, there was a moment where you actually saw like the peloton bulge up a little bit, making sure that the tempo is apparently not that hard, because otherwise you'd see them in one line for the entire way. Do you think that's because there's also tiredness from pacing behind that breakaway all day, or is that because there's teams that are kind of playing the role of, okay, let's keep some riders for the last part of this race?
I think FDJ were probably and justifiably trying to coax some work out of other teams, like trying to get Quickstep to send a rider forward. FDJ controlling a lot. Connor Valavos doing a huge job. 20Ks to go. I think the gap was like 2 minutes at 25Ks. It was 2:30. It was coming down like 30 seconds every 5Ks. 15Ks, it was at like 1:30, but then 15 to 12Ks, it really didn't go down too much. It was like down 15, 12 seconds. Through there was a chicane, etc. Schmidt was pulling for Quickstep. Zabel moved up for Israel pulling. So FDJ just burnt their entire train chasing this. They only reserved, I think, Scottson for 2.7Ks to go and Guarnieri a little bit. But yeah, all the other teams committed. The question was, the break, I think they could have made it. But it needed flawless cooperation practically to the line. They needed to basically roll turns into the last 100 meters and then sprint. Full gas to the entire time, no one conserving anything. And it didn't seem that that was the case. I think Vandenberg skipped a turn at 5Ks. He wasn't pulling as long. I think Prudhomme was just kind of cooked. And Ancorn was really the one who was keeping that gap alive. And then with 2Ks to go, Benji, they get to the false flat section, 20-second gap. It swung in favor of the peloton. I still like, they might be able to make it. Poor old Pascal Ancorn got sold out.
Yep, he did. And it was a bit unfortunate that to see that, like, you said it, Prudhomme is the rider that seemed cooked, but a Maestri and Julius Van den Berg had been finessing a few times. I think he skipped 2 turns in total in the last 10 kilometers, and he was kind of a rider that whenever he went to the front, it felt like he wasn't doing as much as the other riders in that group was. And when it comes to Maestri, I was like on the fence. Is he kind of done for? Is he not? I don't know from that point onwards, at that point in the race, but yeah, we saw that Ancorn was just sitting at the front, and he went into the chicane in the last 1.5 kilometers, and from that point onwards until like 900 meters to go, like straight up nobody wanted to take over. And when that happens, you're like, okay, it's still 900 meters from this point onwards. If you don't want to take over, then Ancorn is going to give up at some point. The peloton is getting to 15 seconds, 10 seconds. This breakaway is not going to make it. And then an attack came from Julius Van den Berg, proving that he had some energy left. He was probably waiting to make a move like that. Perhaps he didn't trust the sprint against Ancorn, which I could understand. On paper, Ancorn is a faster rider in this group, but that won't work if the peloton is so close. And the issue is not that if the attack works, then he's got a lead and then he can go solo. But if he gets caught, the cooperation is completely gone, and you kind of have to hope that somebody else makes another move, but that was not the case. And Incorn closes that Vandenberg attack. Those 4 riders are in one line again. Prudhomme was indeed the one that was hoping he could hold on to the most of his abilities in that section, but we saw the peloton coming from behind, and last minute Maestri still attacked. Like, he had some energy left apparently, so he could have used that before that, but apparently not. And it was all down to the peloton then, right?
Yeah, and it's not like, an exposure attack. Maestri's attack was really strong. He was going quicker than FDJ's lead out. He gave them a lead out. And so by 1200 meters, it was done already. The damage was done no matter what they did with a K to go, they couldn't have saved it. But with the problem was they didn't build up enough buffer into 2Ks to go, and that's probably because I think guys were holding back maybe Maestri and Vandenberg a little bit. But maybe it wouldn't have made a difference at all. In the end, FDJ do a fantastic job. Guarnieri leading out Damar. Richese tries to lead out Gaviria to the left-hand side, but he doesn't really go anywhere. And he then shouts at Gaviria, who's slotted onto the wheel of Damar on the barriers, but then Damar's kind of pinching him to the barriers, and so Gaviria has no lane. But if he'd gone behind Richese, it wouldn't have been. He would have been sort of left on the front way too early. Cavendish is having to come from really deep, got no lead out. Quickstep have spent their entire team, and then he's impeded by Richese. He has to get there, but Damar just way too strong. Even with Gaviria in the wheel, Bauhaus getting a spot, opening up on the barriers late. Damar takes his third stage, and much deserved, because FDJ took it upon themselves to control this stage. They did a lot of work. They burnt their lead out. Other teams did work too, but much deserved for them. And yeah, just a great win by Arnaud Démare. Before I get into the top 10, I'll mention our supporting sponsor, GCN Plus, who support the LRCP Giro coverage. You can watch every kilometer live and ad-free on GCN Plus. And today's sprint stage is an example of a really well-designed one that was just a perfect sprint stage that I really couldn't take my eyes off in the last 30, 40 kilometers. Catch up when it suits you on GCN Plus with full stage replays, on-demand highlights, and all LRCP listeners can get 25% off if you're in the US, UK, Australia, Canada, or Germany from an annual GCN Plus subscription by heading to gcn.eu/LRCP in the description down below. Any thoughts on that sprint, Benji?
Honestly, the Mars sprint was just very strong once again, could hold it off until the end. Gaviria and Richese is a bit of a soap, in my opinion. Richese trying to go on the left side, Gaviria trying to hold on to the Mars wheel and not choosing to go for the wheel of, well, actually, I think it was Cavendish's wheel that Gaviria was on, right? Or am I wrong?
I'm not sure. I thought Cav had to come from deeper because Gaviria was plonked onto Damar's wheel.
Yeah, but Gaviria, chose not to jump on Richese's wheel, and you see Richese shouting at Gaviria. That's just a peak UAE moment, because last year, I swear, in the Giro as well, or was it the year before, the Milano Gaviria leadouts, also that chemistry just wasn't there, and it seems like Richese was extended to lead out Gaviria in this Giro. He was especially extended for this race, and then Gaviria doesn't choose to doesn't trust his lead out, whether it's a good choice or not. I'm actually not so sure. I feel like Richese's move was actually a good move to be sitting on. And
if he followed him, he was fucked. No. Richese went so early. If Gaviria had gone on his wheel and then kicked, he has Démare on the wheel. It's uphill, it's 2%. I think it was way too early. I think Démare, like Gaviria, could barely get out of his wheel anyway. Where was Richese shouting at him? I think it was 250 to go with uphill.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, I guess. UAE, you've got a team of Portuguese riders for Almeida, Italian riders for Medium Mountain Ulisi, and then the two Spanish-speaking riders, Gaviria and Richese. They've got 3 teams within the one team. It's a tough balance. But here's the top 10. Démare winning his third stage ahead of Bauhaus, who nailed Cav on the line for second, Cav third, Gaviria fourth, Dainese fifth, Consoni sixth, De Bont seventh, Nizzolo eighth. That's awful. Let's be honest, being beaten by De Bont on this sort of uphill finish.
Yeah, and the team actually properly spent riders as well during the rain, so it's kind of he's really not riding well at this team, and we've mentioned it. Yeah, I don't know, we expect more from Nizzolo, as simple as that.
Yeah, like, I'm not saying he has to win every stage, but he's got Dowsett doing a huge shift. Zabel, his last man, was pulling back to break. They spent the entire team, Cataford, and he's being beaten by DeBont in this, and Consoni. I know they're fine, but geez, eighth. All he beat was Vendrame and Tobias Bayer, who's a GC prospect. Like, not great for Nizzolo. Morale will be, I think, pretty low there. But that was a really good sprint stage. And compared to the other one, I think that was really good and exciting. The down was Bardet pulling out. That was a real shame for the race, but a Frenchman won, so French fans mixed feelings for this day. Tomorrow's stage from Sant'Enna to Torino, 148 Ks. This is medium mountain paradise. It's quite hard. They do the Superga, which you might know from Milano Torino. I'm pretty sure it's the same side, or maybe it's not. I'm not. Maybe I'm stupid. Anyway, they do 2 laps of a climb called the Superga near Torino. I'm assuming it's this Milano Torino climb.
Yeah.
5Ks, 8.2%. It's afterwards, they have a rolling ridgeline. Then about 14 kilometers later, they do the Colle della Maddalena, 3.6K, 7.3%. There is literally no flat after in the last 35, 38 kilometers. And I think Bahrain and Ineos need to try something Benji. I think this is a good stage for Bilbao because he struggles on the long mountains, but this could be some technical descents. I don't know. I think this is a day to play a second GC guy before, or maybe you think they don't want to tip their cap before the big stage 15?
I'm afraid that they won't be daring to make a move on this stage, knowing that on stage 15 and stage 16 there's proper mountain stages where differences are going to be made. So I fear that it's going to be a rather defensive race from the GC teams, at least until that La Superga. Perhaps stuff happens on that end, but I don't know about that. There's another team that now has one rider in the top 10 of GC instead of 2, which is that DSM team that just lost Bardet. So that's another aspect to the fact that there's one less rider, one less secondary GC rider to kind of go for. Because if you have Bardet up in GC on like near podium and you've got Arensman near the top 10 position, and Arensman can try and attack on these kind of stages. But that's not the case right here because they only have one rider left now. But when it comes to I kind of feel like a break could also be a scenario here. It's kind of like stage 7 where I
think break will win.
Yeah, Vincenzo Nibali.
Mate, he brings the blockhouse legs. How can he not win? He'll drop everyone on the first Superga.
Is he too close?
Solo. Oh, do they respect him anymore? No offense, Vincenzo. What's he at?
3 minutes down?
3 minutes.
That's too
close. What's he doing? What is he doing? He's trying to. He's going for GC.
Of course he is. I've been fearing it for years now that he continues going for GC when I hope he goes for a stage win. And he's now on 3 minutes in stage 13. And by the time he like gets to the bigger mountain stage, there's going to be a day where he loses proper time again, like on Etna. And he's going to end up on like 7-8 minutes, and it's going to be too late to go in breakaways. And I hope that he's allowed to go in the breakaway, but I fear he won't. And therefore, I'm actually looking towards more a De La Cruz rider from their team. But you're right. If a Bahrain wants to pick it up on this stage, it's possible. But I've got a feeling that whenever Bahrain's in a race with Landa as leader, they're less offensive.
Yeah, I agree. Like Haig and Caruso and Co seem to be made to embrace the chaos, and Landa probably wants it a little bit more controlled. I think Formolo, Mollema are the favourites from the break. Cohen Bowman, the same sort of break. Dumoulin will be getting into that. I think Formolo wins this stage. And for that reason, that's why I'm suggesting that Ineos should try something because UAE's best domestique on this parkour will be winning the stage up the road. So this is a good chance to attack Almeida. You know, like that rolling ridgeline before Colle della Maddalena. Could they get Sivakov? Remember, they got Sivakov in the break in the Vuelta. I can't remember the stage 9 that Haig took minutes back and Stora won, I think, before the first rest day. Sivakov got in the break. Yeah, he had a fight with Stora. It was hilarious. I would get Sivakov in the break if I was Ineos. And
Yates?
is he didn't he lose more time today?
He did, but perhaps it's on purpose.
I mean, he's not even trying to backdoor a GC result anymore. I mean, yeah, like if he's got the legs, yeah, he can ruin everyone on that 10-minute Colle della Maddalena climb. Like the gradients are 12% the first kilometer, then 9% the second kilometer. So Yates will say good night to you on that, and he's a good descender too.
Taramé lost time today. We also see that Tobias Foss lost time today. He's gonna have to do something at some point. Like he's out of GC. He's gonna have to
He's
go
not
for
good enough to
stages.
win.
Is he not good enough to win any stage in this Giro?
Formolo and Co will ruin him. Mollema, they're better climbers than him. He's too heavy. On that 12%, I don't see it. I'm going with Bauke Mollema to win the stage. Formalino top 3.
I like that. I like that pick. I always forget about Mollema, despite him being such an obvious pick for stages like this. I am going to go for probably a mistake. Nah, I won't go for the Marquis. I won't do it. I don't believe in the Marquis. If he wins tomorrow, it's gonna look so lame now. But it's hard, because I want Nibali to win, but he clearly is too close to go in that breakaway. So that's not happening. I'm gonna go for Attila Valter for this one.
Yeah, I mean, he's been conspicuous by his absence in this Giro d'Italia. I haven't really seen him, so he should be trying to get in this breakaway. And if it goes to the finish, he's very, very fast. He won the Catalunya. Did he win the Catalunya stage, or did he come third or something?
Second, always second or third.
He's good in these sort of descent finishes, very fast. Tour of the Alps as well, like this. That's a good call. I think this is something he really should be targeting. But that's the Giro d'Italia stage 14 tomorrow, the first of the weekend stages, and then stage 15 is more of a nailed on. Should be, hopefully, GC day. Tomorrow I'm hoping for Ineos to be aggressive if they can. But thanks to Zwift for supporting the podcast, being our year-long presenting sponsor. If you want to catch the Giro, check out GCN Plus tomorrow. But otherwise, that's all from Benji and I, and we'll see you with the Stage 14 recap and Vuelta a Burgos Stage 3 recap tomorrow. Ciao.